Hey guys, Justin here from Jay's Modern Bushcraft and Survival. Today I want to talk about being prepared, specifically for an emergency situation, and what's the best way to deal with that and how to proceed in case of an emergency. So stay with me and let's talk about it. So this video is about a situation where you're going to have to prepare a bag and you're not going to stay at the location you're at. You're going to leave that location because for whatever reason, that location is not safe. You don't feel safe there and you want to leave there. The most important things you need to know are the conditions that you're going to encounter, what you might run into, and that is all going to determine what goes into this bag. A lot of videos that I've seen regarding bug out bags, they basically go through a list of items and say, you need this, this, and this, and this. Well, I don't feel that way. I mean, it's very situational. What season is it? Obviously that's going to determine what's in that bag. It's not a one size fits all type, scenario here. Your bag is going to change depending on the season, depending on the situation, depending on your plan, which is one of the most important things, and that's what I want to talk about now. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is I'm not talking about like zombies attacking, okay? I'm not talking about, a meteor that's going to destroy the entire planet, or, doesn't necessarily have to be a doomsday situation is what I'm saying. I'm talking about normal emergencies that happen all over the globe every day. Forest fires, floods, mudslides, tornadoes, hurricanes. These things are real. They're happening all the time, all over the globe, and people lose their lives because they're not prepared. And I believe the first place we need to start to be prepared is to first have a plan. But before you can get to that point, there's quite a few questions you need to ask yourself. For one, in this emergency, what is happening? Okay, identify that. Second, what's your plan? Just basically, are you going to stay? Are you going to hunker down and weather this out? Or are you going to go? Okay, now, the second thing, let's say you are going to go, because this is about a bag that you're going to grab and go with. So in the scenario that you are going to bug out or get out or, flee the area that's in danger, how are you going to get there? Well, actually, first thing you need to figure out is where you're going to go. And what comes along with that is there anybody you're going to need to coordinate with? Are you going to meet up with somebody there? Do they know your plan? You need to make sure you have all these things planned out in advance. Now, how are you going to get there? Are you going to be able to drive? Can you drive? Maybe you want to plan for any contingency and just plan as if you had to walk. Worst case scenario, you have to walk there. How long is it going to take you to get there? What supplies are you going to need? And also, I want you to understand or plan for what resources are going to be available at your destination when you get there. Also, how long will you have to be traveling? In order to be prepared, you have to know, okay, well, I have a car. If I can drive, then it's only going to take me 45 minutes. However, if I have to walk, this might take me, a day, I might get stuck out overnight. I might, that really changes things a lot. Um, so these are questions you need to ask yourself when it comes to preparing a bag. Now, let's say you do plan on using a vehicle to get where you're going, uh, to get to your destination. Emergencies happen, and this is something that's very important to understand. We don't know what the condition of that vehicle is going to be at the time of that emergency or disaster. So you need to ask yourself, am I generally, how low do I let the gas in my, how low do I let that gas meter get? Some people don't let it get below a quarter tank. Other people let it run right down to that E symbol, and then they go and fill up. If you're one of those people, then at the time of the emergency, you could have between a full tank and an empty. In which case, you need to be prepared. If you want to be prepared, that is, you need to have enough gas to get to where you're going in a gas can somewhere. That will be your emergency gas. If there's an emergency, I know this amount of gas will get me to my destination. If you're one of those people that keeps it halfway filled, you never let it go below half, and you can reach your destination with that amount, then obviously that's less of a concern. Also, will people be traveling with you? Because now when you talk about how long is this trip, if we're going to be going somewhere that's going to take more than a day, now we're getting into, we're going to need food, water for how many people? How many? Do you have a family? Do you have kids? You got a wife with you? These are all things that need to be considered when it comes to what you're going to need to bring for this journey. Also, what kind of environment and are you going to be traveling through? If it's going to be a flooded environment and you're planning on using a vehicle, you might want to consider packing stuff just in case you have to walk, in case the road's washed out. If it's a tornado type situation, you might need to walk just because there's, trees blocking the road. Tornadoes or hurricanes, things like that, high winds. Are there going to be hostile people? Now, if we're in a situation where we're talking about where there might be hostile individuals, maybe like a riot situation or something like that, people start getting into, well, now maybe I need protection, and that's one of the things. Yes, protection is good, but having this, I could bring the largest machine gun in the world, but then again, if it's a riot, people see a machine gun, they're going to want that. I honestly believe unassuming weapons are the best weapons in that type of situation. Like a pistol would be great. It's something that's concealed. You don't look as threatening, and you don't, people don't see something that they want. And that's important, I think. Okay, so moving on. You've developed your plan. You know what's going on, what you need to do. You've coordinated with any other people that are involved in this plan. They know it. You know it. You have your transportation worked out. Now we get down to the actual bag. And if you notice, like, the video is probably going to be pretty short from here, because I honestly believe most of, being prepared to bug out is not what's in your bag. It's having the plan in place, So, but let's talk about what to bring. Okay, so let's say it is a hostile situation and you do need a weapon of some kind. Well, then the weapon has weight to it. If you're going to have to walk, you're going to have to carry it. You're going to have to carry ammunition. And That takes up weight. Whatever you put in this pack, I want you to understand that you need to try it out. You need to go walk around the neighborhood with it once or something, or at least just, get a feel for the weight and see if this is something you'd actually be able to carry. Look at the distance that you're actually going to have to travel and say, how far realistically am I going to be able to walk with this pack? Everybody's got different physical conditioning, so it's going to be different for everybody, but it's something you need to, you know, keep in mind. I would say one of the first items to consider, um, depending on the situation, would be some water. Keep a few bottles of water in your car, keep a few in your home just to have. Um, you can never go wrong with just having water. That could get you through, a few days of difficult times no matter what happens. Just because water is almost, besides the weather, dehydration is one of the first things that can kill you. Well, and hostile individuals, but having some water around is something you can actually control. You can't control the weather, you can't control other people, but you can control having water on hand. When it comes to what you put in the pack, I said one size, does not fit all. And a lot of what's going to go into this pack is going to depend on the situation and your plan. Um, However, there are 5 items that I would recommend everybody have in their pack. And this is something Dave Canterbury preaches, um, the 5 C's of survival. 1, a cutting tool. 2, cordage. Some type of, either paracord or rope or, I don't know, even hemp twine. Whatever you have, some kind of cordage is very important. 3, a container. Something to carry, cook. Um, it's in something. I would go with metal. I mean, obviously, any kind of container can help because then you can get water, transport it. Very important. But if it's metal, you can cook in it. So I would recommend like a small metal, pot. You can get them for like $9 at department stores, very cheap. Just have one, and some type of covering. Now, this could go from, or this could range from clothing to an actual shelter system. And it all depends on your situation. Again, it's going to depend on your plan. If where you're going, you can get there either walking or driving within a day, then maybe you don't need to worry about, packing an emergency shelter because, no matter what happens, you'll probably be able to make it there before you would need to sleep. Um, and lastly, a combustion device. My Carry a Bic lighter. Just keep a Bic lighter in your bag. It doesn't take up any space. It doesn't weigh anything. Just throw it in there. In fact, throw 3 of them in there, different pockets. Put one in your coat, put one in your pants. Keep them things everywhere. Beyond that, I mean, a ferro rod is great because it's going to work no matter whether it's wet, whether it's windy. It'll always work provided you know how to use it. So that covers the 5 C's. You got your cutting tool, your cordage, your container, your cover, and your combustion device. Those are your 5 things. Now, with those, an experienced individual, somebody experienced with, bushcrafting and survival skills, can survive just on those alone. So as long as you have those and you have a little knowledge of how to use them, they can take you very far. Going beyond that, you might want to consider carrying even a basic compass. I don't mean like a button compass that just tells you north, south, east, west, because you're leaving from an area that you're familiar with. So you're probably already going to understand where north, south, east, and west are. Um, So I'm talking about a compass where you can actually get your bearings, shoot an azimuth. If you learn, I mean, I was always a little hesitant to learn land navigation because I always thought it was really complicated, but there's some really simple things you can learn with a basic compass that can really help you out. So at least learn the basics of an actual, real compass. Either a base plate compass is good. I use one of these style compasses, like the military style. I forget what they're called. I'll put a closed caption in there. But these work very well too. Um, but the difference between this and like a button compass, I just want to say, and this is why it can help, is this has a bezel ring, which you can adjust. I mean, it allows you to shoot an azimuth, get a bearing, and it allows you to navigate a lot more thoroughly than just knowing your direction. Okay, so now let's say we're taking a little bit longer trip. It's going to take us maybe a few days to get to our destination. Now we might want to consider bringing food. I would recommend lightweight stuff, dehydrated, only because I don't like to carry a lot of weight personally. When I go camping in the wintertime, I will bring a 20-pound backpack and I'll live out there for a week. I don't want to carry a lot of weight. I don't like hiking. I don't like, I'll say it again, I don't like carrying a lot of weight. Not if I don't have to. But I like the dehydrated meals. And it could just be stuff you got sitting around your house. Some of those instant rice packages, some instant mashed potatoes. I mean, you can get these. I got this one at Walmart, some scrambled eggs. These are ones I ordered, dehydrated. This one's cheesecake. You can get omelets, all kinds of stuff, chilies. It all depends on what you like. But there's lots of them. And I mean, you can see they're very small. They don't really weigh much. They're light. So they make, great pack food, stuff to just have in your pack. But let me tell you my favorite survival food. Right here. Corned beef and hash. I love this stuff. You got protein, you got carbs from the potatoes, you got fats. This is just pure fuel, pure fuel. No empty space in this can. So all that is just pure solid fuel to keep you going. I really think it's a great survival food. If you're bringing food, you're going to want something to heat it up in. You can get a small bush pot like this where you can boil water. I mean, you could cook soup in there, no problem. I mean, you can cook pretty much anything in there. It's not as, so, it's a little, not like a fry pan or anything, but for that, I mean, you could get a little mess kit. This one was $20. It's stainless steel. It comes with a fry pan. The top that you see here is actually a bowl. Inside, there's another little pot where you could cook soups in. It comes, well, you can get silverware for it. It comes with a couple little plastic cups. And the stainless steel has a couple advantages. The aluminum, some people, first of all, say it gives you Alzheimer's, but obviously this is not something you're going to be using every day or eating out of every day. But the stainless steel is also a little bit easier to clean. It's more like the difference between a Teflon pan over a cast iron pan, If there is a chance you're not going to be able to reach your destination before you need to sleep, now you're going to have to consider some kind of sleep system. Now, let's say you're driving and you can sleep in your car. You don't have to worry about shelter. But if something happens and you lose that vehicle and you have no shelter, then, you're going to wish you had brought something for shelter. If you know for a fact you are going to have to spend the night in transit, let me show you a couple options that you have. Okay, so there's really a wide range of things that you could use as a shelter. I'm not going to go into them all because I would be here all day. Well, let's say you don't plan on having to spend the night out. You have a car, you could sleep in that, you can lock the doors, you can feel secure. That's great. But if something, you think the chances are really slim of you ever having to sleep out there, at least bring something like this. This is a $2 space blanket. And this can be used, even just to wrap up in. If you have to sleep outside, at least you have some protection and waterproofing from the elements. And then if you want to, let's say you were absolutely sure, yeah, I'm going to have to spend the night out there. This is the complete opposite end of the spectrum, in my opinion. This is a oilcloth tarp. Now, this is completely waterproof. It's got lots of tie downs all over it. It can be set up in multiple configurations, from a lean-to a teepee style to even a hammock. You can create with one of these. This weighs 5 pounds, but like I said, this is an all-purpose shelter. This is what I take with me to go camping in 0-degree temperatures in winter. And I would take this over a tent any day. In my opinion, it's a lot more versatile. It's more insulative and more durable, which means this is also nice because you can put it by the fire and you don't have to worry about a spark landing on it. So I could build my shelter in cold weather, have the fire right up next to it, and not have to worry about like a tent where if a spark jumps, a hole's going to get burned in it. Now, I know I'm talking about a sleep system, but I just want to mention, because I bought this when I bought the space blanket, this is always a nice item to have as well. It's very small. Also, just $2. This is a rain poncho. If there's a chance you're going to get wet, you could bring a nice raincoat. They can, pack up in a small package as well, but not this small. And at least this will keep you dry. Yeah, it's not the best. It's not breathable, but it will keep you dry. So if it's cold out, being wet can make you hypothermic. So being able to stay dry is actually very, very important. So I like to stick these everywhere. In my backpack, in my glove compartment, in my tackle box if I'm going fishing. I just stick them all over the place because, I don't want to be cold and wet. But back to the sleep system. If you're going to spend the night out there, I recommend a sleeping bag that compresses down small, something easily packable. I also recommend, honestly, and I don't even care if this is a survival situation, I think it's important to be comfortable and get a good night's sleep. So I would include some type of sleep mat. Something, what you want to look for is good insulation and good loft. Loft is going to make it more comfortable as far as, your bones not digging into the ground, your hips not digging in. And R value is going to make you more comfortable as far as temperature goes. I like the Thermarest Base Camp sleep mat. It's got an R value of 6, which is very high. It's got 2 inches of loft. And I can't say enough about that thing. I've laid on that thing when I was out there in 0-degree temperatures. I had to lay on that for 15 hours straight. And I was perfectly comfortable in my sleeping bag, just laying there. Of course, it was boring, but... Okay, so let's move on to some other things that I think are also, very important to consider, especially in an emergency situation. Like when I go out, if I'm just going to spend a few days out in the woods, a lot of times I might not bring any kind of medical equipment or, med kit or anything like that. However, if it's an emergency situation, I recommend a few items, at least. One is a tourniquet, but not the elastic strap kind. I would recommend getting the rubber tubing because that's a multi-use item. You can use that as a drinking straw if you needed. You could use it to siphon gas out of a vehicle. So if you're traveling somewhere, your vehicle runs out of gas, you can use that hose, siphon some gas out. You might not want to drink out of it after that, but it's another use for that item. And it's all about carrying things that can do, multiple tasks for you and be used for different things. And it's up to you to be creative and learn how to use them. Um, Beyond that, a radio or radios might be good depending on the situation. If it's a weather related emergency and you have a small radio which can pick up like the NOAA alerts, that could help you out a lot because they can tell you, what areas are being hit, maybe what roads are out, where the flooding is headed or where the fire is headed, whatever. So that could come in handy. But again, this all comes down to planning and what the situation is. But it's something to consider at least. I would also recommend some kind of candling device like a headlamp, a flashlight. They always come in handy. And if you're also bring some spare batteries. I try to actually use items that all take the same battery type. That way I can carry the different items, but then only have to carry one type of battery. And that's helpful. Having to carry multiple different types of batteries is kind of a pain because you don't know what's going to run out of battery first. You don't know how many you're going to need, which item you're going to use the most. So to try to keep some kind of standard helps. Also, communication, and this kind of goes back to radios as well because um, you can use two-way radios if you like, or I mean, if you really want, if you really want to go all out, put like an actual CB radio in your car or something for to be able to reach out a little more and communicate with the outside world. That's never a horrible idea. I mean, it's a little bit of an investment for sure, um, but it could definitely help. One thing I would never um, go anywhere with: make sure you have a map in your pack, your go bag. And if you have planned, okay, well, this is my destination. In case of an emergency, this is where I'm going. Here's where I am. Make sure that map covers that whole area. And maybe even a little bit more if you can. But you at least want it to cover that area of where you are and where your destination will be. Look at the different routes. Know the different routes. A little bit of preparation can go a long way. This is going to sound silly, but bring a pencil and paper. There's a lot that you can do with a pencil and paper. And I know a lot of people don't consider that like a survival item or anything like that, but when it comes to land navigation, jotting down things that you're noticing, I mean, there's so many uses. Just, I think it's a good idea to have it. You can get a little 3-inch by 3-inch pad of paper and a small pencil. Doesn't have to be huge or anything. But depending how long your trip is, when it comes to medical supplies, I recommend, like, I personally always try to keep some antibiotics on hand. I actually have some right here. I know they always tell you to finish taking them, but I always like to save a few and I just keep them on hand because they could save your life. It's just that simple. I would also recommend some gauze pads, maybe some quick clot. I mean, I'm not talking about, when I'm mentioning like first aid, I'm not talking about little band-aids and stuff like that, but some antibiotic ointment, even if it's like a small tube, that's perfect. But the important thing, some way to clot blood, because it's really the things that are going to threaten your life, that you want to protect against. Sorry. Things like bleeding, infection, getting sick, especially considering we're in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, I know for coronavirus, antibiotics aren't going to help, but there are a lot of things that can, inhibit you and uh, disable you in different ways. Also, a good knowledge of the plants in the area that you're in can never hurt. And knowledge is something that takes up no space. It takes up, it doesn't tire you out to carry it. So, I mean, you can buy a book like this one. You can learn the plants around you and what they can do medicinally. You'd be surprised. I recommend, and so do a lot of other bushcrafters, start with trees, because trees you can identify and locate in all 4 seasons. So if you're going to start anywhere, don't start with little, plants and grasses, because if it's wintertime, your knowledge is useless because you're not going to find them and they're probably dead. So start with trees. One thing I don't want to leave out is clothing. Your clothing is your first line of defense against the weather and your environment. So make sure you have the clothing that you need available and ready to go. Like, let's say you're building preparing a bag for an emergency. Maybe put in, if you don't want to have to change that bag from season to season, you don't want to add like snow pants and a winter jacket, just be, every time winter comes around. Just add like a sweater, and then like maybe like a long sleeve thermal shirt, like something like this, and then add in like a t-shirt as well. That way you got 3 layers that you can layer on all right there. Make sure you have some boots, something comfortable to walk in if you need to. But just consider your clothing as part of your bug out bag. It's not necessarily going to be in that bug out bag, but make sure you understand that it's going to be included when you're on your way out. Also, one of the most important things as well, you've got your plan, you've got your bag, you're on your way to your destination. Keep your eyes open. Always be looking for anything useful on your route. You never know what can happen, and if you keep an open mind and keep a creative mind, there's a lot of different items that can really help you out. So keep your eyes open. Okay, so that's pretty much all I got for you. I think I covered most of the important things that I wanted to talk about. Please, if there's anything you also, have an opinion about, put it in the comments section. This isn't for me. I'm putting this video out for anybody who wants to be prepared, and any information that you guys can also help deliver, to my viewers, please, add it in the comments section, and I'll do the same if I have any more ideas as we go, because I'm not an expert. Okay, this is just something that I've been thinking about for many years. I try to have a plan and be ready, because you never know what can happen. So thank you. I appreciate your views. If you want to see more videos, like, subscribe, and I'll keep putting out videos. Thank you.